Good afternoon, B-Sides. My name is James, and I'm here to talk to you today about purple teaming, particularly with a tool called Prelude Operator and also Elastic Security. I do work for Elastic myself, so I'm a product marketing manager at Elastic, focusing on our security products. But this talk is going to be very B-Sides and community friendly, and it's always a pleasure to be able to talk at these events. We don't have too much time, so I am going to dive right in. And I'd like to start off just by introducing the concept of purple teaming for those of you who might not be too aware about what that is. So it's not a new concept, right? Purple teaming has been around for a while, but it has gained a bit more traction in the past couple of months or even year or so, I would say. And the whole point is closer collaboration between a red team and a blue team. A lot of people know what a red team is, so people trying to exploit their own organization, whether that's a pen test, whether that's running adversary emulations via any tool they prefer. And then we have the blue team side of the house, which is typically trying to detect all of this behavior. Purple teaming brings those two teams together in a very close collaboration exercise. Rather than having the red team do their thing and the blue team do their thing, it's all about the red team trying things and helping the blue team understand what they might have not detected and how they can help detect, and vice versa. So if the blue team detects something and the red team wasn't expecting their emulations to be detected in that way, they provide that feedback loop, and they also provide an end-to-end performance of that exercise back to the business or to whoever the stakeholders are. So it's just really close-knit collaboration between the two teams, rather than, there's this a lot of times we hear like the red team saying, "Oh, we're the best. We defeated the blue team entirely." This takes that approach and throws it out the window. It's all about really close-knit collaboration between the two, because at the end of the day, their goal is the same: to help protect their organization better. So that's the concept of purple teaming, really. Obviously, the name purple is derived from blue and red, which makes absolute sense. What are we going to look at today? So there are a whole host of tools that you can use for, particularly for adversary emulation. So, the common ones like Caldera, Atomic Red Team Automation, Infection Monkey. There's way more Attack IQ. So there's so many to mention. There's even tools focused on reporting purple teaming metrics like Vector. And also from the blue team side, and then there's all your traditional SIEM technologies or security analytics, and obviously Elastic Security as product, or as a platform, I should say, covers that side of the purple team really well. So the blue team detection, reporting, and even data collection side. We're going to see, I'll be using Elastic Agent. Prelude Operator, it's fairly new in the space as a tool for adversary emulation, but they have some really, really interesting features available, which I really, really like. So that's why I'll be talking about it today. And with that being said, I'm just going to dive right in because we don't really have that much time. So let me go right into a demo, and I'll start off by talking about Prelude, the Prelude Operator, I should say. So Prelude is the company, Operator is the product. And I am running Prelude Operator on just a standard Windows machine. Prelude Operator, I keep saying Prelude, I should be saying Operator. Operator itself is totally cross-platform, so you can run it on whatever operating system you want. In fact, you can see I have it here on my Mac as well, if you can see down below on my screen. I'm just going to be running it on Windows just for the sake of this demo. There's a bunch of features I'd like to call out first. So the whole concept with an operator is you deploy adversaries. You can either schedule them to run or you can run them manually. And they provide a lot of TTP, so tactics, techniques, and procedures that you can just start to immediately use. And you can see this via their editor plugin. Hopefully this is coming across on the screen. But you can see here, there's a lot of tactics you can choose from. Some of them are tagged by particular adversaries or particular situations and outcomes, or maybe even things like recent vulnerabilities that you've seen, like Hafnium. And then you click on the tag and you can see the actual TTP and exactly what it would run. And you're free to edit these as well. That's why we're in the editor here. So a lot of flexibility. Everything is explained really well, which is one of the neat things I really like about it. And they tell you what, if any sort of MITRE tactics and techniques they cover, if it's deployed to any adversaries already. So all of this is really well explained. So there's a ton of these that they provide. However, there's a few other tools which are really, really cool. So I don't reinvent the wheel here. So we will be talking about existing tools. Like I already mentioned, Atomic Red Team from Red Canary. They provide a ton of TTPs, which are very, very popular. And what Prelude have allowed you to do with an operator is you can leverage those if you want, or even leverage any, for example, existing Caldera plugins. Even though they have their own TTPs, you can use whatever you're more comfortable with. And for the sake of this demo, I actually did that. I loaded up, you can see they have import Atomic Red Team attack files. I've done that. And if I go back to the editor, you can see that I have a whole section where I've just very simply imported all the Atomic Red Team files. And you can see here, very, very easy. If I wanted to change them, even though I imported them from Atomic Red Team, I can just do that here. So now, instead of me having to run these Atomic Red Team TTPs manually or have them stored separately apart from my other tools, I've just put everything into one, which is really, really nice. And again, really easy to run, as we're going to see, easy to edit, easy to modify, and to deploy to any adversary. So that's one thing I wanted to highlight with an operator, that you can really use any sort of TTPs you're comfortable with. Another thing they provide is, which is really nice, is the ability to load up any tools that you like using. So if you have a project within GitHub which you track, again, Atomic Red Team might be one of them, but maybe Caldera or anything else, or any other community-based tool that you really like and you want to keep track of its sort of any updates and stuff, you can add those right here as well. So you can see, for example, Atomic Red Team, I'm synchronized with the GitHub repository within this toolbox, and I can see all the latest and greatest from that repo without having to stay going to GitHub. One of the things, obviously, at Elastic that we provide from the blue team side of the house is a lot of detection rules. So we have over, I think it's 550 detection rules, which are all public in a GitHub repository for anyone to use and contribute to. And I have that hooked up right here as well. So you can do stuff like that. So the concept of integrating tools that you might be already using is really, really handy. Another thing is, you might already have an existing blue team infrastructure. So you might have a SIEM, you might have a security analytics tool, you might have something like Elastic. So what Preload have provided through Operator as well is the ability to deploy attack ranges on even something they call their cloud redirector. So I'm running Operator locally on a machine, but as we all know, in an enterprise, that's not going to be the case. So what you can do is you can set up sort of like a cloud redirector and have remote agents report into that redirector, and you can have everything managed through there. It's really, really nice and really easy to set up. But you can also set up here an Elastic range if you wanted to. And they're already utilizing some of our latest features like fleet, so centralized management. So you literally just put in your fleet URL and the fleet token, and it will not only deploy an agent, a fleet agent, I should say an Elastic agent on that host, but it will also drop an operator agent. So you're with one click, you're basically deploying data collection, and you're going to have the agent that's going to doing the adversary emulation on that machine as well in one click. It's not just Elastic that they do this for. So there is you can set up a similar thing with Splunk and a few others as well. Then they even have things like integration with Azure and stuff. So there's a really, really rich set of features within Operator, which is one of the reasons why I like it, because it just makes things really easy for teams. So let's run an emulation exercise. So I'm going to go into Operate, and I have my host here. And you can see I can just immediately deploy an adversary. I can create an adversary on the fly. And remember, an adversary is basically a collection of TTPs. I created one for B-sides. I've already deployed it, but we can deploy it again. So I'm just going to deploy it. And you can see it immediately starts running on my host. If I was using the cloud redirector or I had another host, I just simply pick the range of machines that I want to run it on, and I would have deployed that adversary on that machine. And you get, as it's running, you get sort of like many other tools, you get an immediate feedback loop. So this is just running one of those TTPs, which requires 7-zip. And it's all happening in the background, and you can see everything that's going on. So if something failed, you can see why. For example, this is trying to query domain computers. This machine is not part of a domain, so that's very well explained. And every single TTP is also really well explained. Excellent. So that adversary has ran. So from the red team side, they're doing their job. What about the blue team side? Where does elastic security fit in? And this fits in many ways. So remember, the whole concept is we're running an exercise with our red team, and the blue team needs to determine, hey, did we detect everything the red team ran? If not, how come? Do we have missing detection rules? Are we not collecting a certain data set that we need to be able to detect this? Did something fail? Did they deploy a new technique? And that's what we're going to start doing inside of Elastic. So this adversary has ran or is still running. And at any time you can clear any pending procedures or pending TTPs that need to be run. But let's dive into the Elastic side now. So I'm just going to put this machine aside, and we'll start off in Kibana. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Elastic, Kibana is our user interface. We have a dedicated security solution, which is what I'm in here, and everything you're seeing comes out of the box. I have not done anything custom about what you're seeing right now. And it's all part of the free version. So none of what you're going to see is a paid feature. So you can start running this immediately today without ever having to pay a cent. So we start off, particularly from a blue team, you typically start off within your detections view, right? So what have we detected as part of this running exercise? And you can see here within the detections page, I have some detections that fired from earlier today. Some will fire again as the new emulation ran. But you can see here within the detections view, I can clearly see already what's starting to happen. So I had rules like encoding or decoding files for a certutil, and I can clearly see that it was running out of operator. But what's nice about it is, even without the red team telling me, I know what was run because of the way we collect data. All of this data, by the way, so on this machine, if I just bring it back, we do have Elastic Agent running with endpoint security. So we have an endpoint security integration for our agent, which is basically doing all the really rich data collection. It also has malware detection and prevention running on it, which is also part of what you get included for free. So you will see, for example, some malware alerts trigger because of some of the payloads that operator uses, or even Atomic Red Team have some malicious payloads as well. So we pick those up anyway. So you can see this is one of them here, malware detection alert, Atomic Red Team. This particular executable is determined to be malware. But you can see how easy it is to understand. So what I like to do in this case, because there's quite a few alerts coming in when we started running this exercise. Now, from a blue team perspective, we have to try and determine, number one, is everything part of this exercise? So there's an easy way to filter those out when you use a specific tool. But number two, did we detect everything, or are we just looking at, or is some of it coming in as data without detections? And a really easy way to start looking at that is by, we can apply a filter, and we can also look at that in what we call our timeline. In fact, I have a pre-prepared timeline just in the interest of time. And a timeline basically allows you to search across all your data sets for anything you want. And you can see it's a very similar view with what we call those row renderers, but it combines the detections and also the raw data. If I'm missing something, I can get a bird's eye view of it right within here. And you can see I applied a filter. I have a saved query here, which basically looks for, which basically shows me what's coming out of the operator directory. And I'm excluding the actual operator process itself, just to make sure it doesn't get convoluted. And you can see today I had 193 logs, essentially, that match that. And you can see some of them are in yellow, which means they were detections. Some of them are not. So basically what I'm seeing here is I have a very immediate indication that, listen, my red team is doing something with operator and I don't have a corresponding detection for it. So that's number one. That's metric number one, where we have the red team doing stuff and we didn't automatically detect it. We have the data coming in, which is fantastic, but we did not have an out of the box, or I should say a pre-built detection rule, whether that's one that Elastic has given me or one that we've created ourselves. In my environment, I have not turned all the rules on just for this exercise, because otherwise probably would have detected everything. But I wanted to show you how easy that would have been. So you can see here, for example, I can pivot between just viewing the detections or just viewing the logs. So if I wanted to just see, okay, what did we detect during our emulation exercise, during our purple team exercise today, I can just show the detection alerts and it will only show me the detections. And then I can pivot and say, okay, we have these detections. What didn't we detect? So I can exclude the detection. So pretty much what's not in yellow is a miss from my part. It's something that obviously during the demo, I get a few errors, but that's okay. It wasn't too bad. But you can see we have all these in yellows were detections. So we had 5 detections today. Some of them might be repeatable. So if we look at, for example, the name of this detection, we can see what it is. So I just pull up the details here on the side, and it will basically give me the detection name. But I can see exactly what was run as well. My instance is behaving a bit oddly today, no problem. It woke up. So you can see this rule in particular was PowerShell spawning command prompt, and I can see it tells me exactly what happened here, which matches that description. So James on this host in this on this domain on this host in this directory started command prompt with these arguments. So you can see group domain computers via parent process PowerShell. So we detected that via this rule. And we also have some other views that you can look at this as well. So if I click on the what we call the event analyzer, I can see the full process tree. It might be easier for some to understand and digest what happened when the red team ran that exercise. So we also have this view as well. I would just let this load for a second because today my instance isn't cooperating. Of course, whenever you do a recording and demo, it always happens. But you can see here, there we go. So I can see launch via operator. We can see PowerShell, which spawns command prompt, which spawns some doing that query for the domain groups via the net process. And I have all this information that I can see right here. So some people might prefer this view, which I like, which I like that you have the option rather than just looking at the text itself. When you're going through an exercise, it's important that you keep track of this, right? So as you're going to the purple team exercise, if you spotted a detection, what I like to do is we can open up what we call a case within Elastic Security, where we can keep track of everything we've detected. And you can see I also saved this as a timeline. I called it B-sides, but you can typically in reality, if you're running an exercise, you would call it accordingly. But we have an option here to add an alert to a case. So I'm going to just go ahead and do that. I'll add this to a new case. And this just really helps me keep track of like, here's the case for our purple teaming exercise. So we can do that here. So I'll just get rid of this and I'll turn it off. So teaming exercise as an example. There we go. Thank you, spell check. I can put in a description. I can even synchronize with a third-party system. And let's not do this for now. And then I can put in a description and it will add that alert to that case. So I can keep track of everything I've detected during that case. On the inverse side, I can say what data has come in via operator that we didn't detect. So I'll just open that again. So we can do the inverse, right? I can basically, instead of looking at just the detection alerts, I can look at everything or just the events. In this case, we'll just look at the events and we'll see the difference. So this is important because now within one view, I know exactly what my red team has been running. I know what we've detected thanks to our predefined detection rules. And I know what we've looked, what we've collected, but we didn't detect. And all of this was done through the whole timeline function. So obviously, and then if we detected something that we didn't pick up, so here we picked, for example, whatever was ran, we can see started process 7-zip, ran these arguments via command prompt. We didn't detect that. So if I wanted to create a detection rule for it, I can do that. So we can literally, if we wanted to look at creating a query just for that. So there's multiple ways we can do that within Elastic, and it's all defined within the same view. So we have the detection engine. There's something else though. So what's nice about operator is, and just bring that into focus again. As you're running an emulation, it creates a report. So they have a nice reporting view. But what's even better about it is you can continuously feed this live into a tool like Elastic as an index, or you can export it as a JSON file if you wanted to. I'm doing that in the background. So what I've done is all this data. So not only am I collecting the raw data as the result of the emulation, but I'm also collecting all the emulation actions. why don't we correlate that, right? So what operator does as part of that report, so this is like the raw data, but we'll look at it inside of the timeline as well. So they provide, as you're running TTPs, you can see the process ID of what was ran. You can see the request that was sent from operator, and you can see the response of something failed, something wasn't successful. If something was successful, you get all of that back. You get the technique. So I'm going to correlate this data with the data that I'm bringing, and I'm going to use EQL for this. So we have a event query language within Elastic, and you can see I have this correlate tab. I've already pre-built this query, but I'll walk you through it, and I'll explain why this is red. So it does syntax validation for me. So you can query any index pattern that you want. So in this case, I need to include the results of operator, which is its own index. So as soon as I add that in there, and then I can correlate. And I'm gonna narrow this down a bit more because I only care about the data coming from Elastic Agent, which is under this logs index, and we can leave that signals index in there as well. And I hit save. So now my query is essentially I'm going to look for a sequence of events where I have process running by a certain process ID. I'm going to match that with the data coming from operator by its process ID. So technically, I should see for every TTP that was ran with an operator, if I've collected everything, I should see a corresponding process. And you can see, and these are the results of a sequence. So the difference in color is basically where every time there was a sequence match. So this is the first match in the sequence. This is another match. And you can see I have 10 because I had 5 TTPs, which means I had 2 logs per TTP, which is exactly what I want to see. So you can see here I have the log that we collected. So you can see terminated process command prompt that ran these arguments. So netsh advanced firewall show all profiles. And then I have another one here. This doesn't have row rendering. It looks blank, but it actually has data. So if we just expand this, we'll be able to see. And what this is going to show me is the log from operator where the PID matched. That's really cool, right? Because now I can see the response that the red team got without having to go to the red team. So that full feedback loop is right within the blue teaming eyes as well. So both sides of the house get it. And I can see exactly what operator ran, and I've matched it to the corresponding log that I got. And this is thanks to EQL, because we can do that correlation based off of the process ID. And you can see here, even though they're different fields, we can still do that, which is quite nice. So here I'm querying for any process, and here I'm looking for any TTP, and I'm just matching based off of the process ID. So you can do stuff like that as well. We don't have too much time left. So what I'd just like to do is now how we can show how we can provide this back to the business. So far we've looked at everything graphical, and we've looked at the blue team and the red team and what they can do and what the blue team can detect, and everything that we can run, which is great. But what about the business, right? So what we can do is we can create really good visual graphics as well. So here I have something we call a canvas, and you can see I've already included sort of the raw data coming from operator. But if I wanted to, I can include a chart here or like a performance metric. So we have here a really easy way of building those in Elastic Code Lens. So if I wanted to do some sort of drag and drop visualizations, I can do that and add them to that Canvas workpad. I think I have a pre-prepared one here, so I'll just load up onto the screen. Here we go. So you can see here, I have, for example, I'm doing that same query as before. So I'm looking for things coming out of operator, and I'm doing a correlation, but this time in the form of a chart. So I'm doing sort of the top, what are the hosts that we're running the emulation on? And we're listing, we can see we have that one host in green here, James Honeypot endpoint Windows demo. We have the processes which are being run as a result of the emulation plan. So you can see certdetail, Ryuk, which is ransomware. We have MSI exec, command prompt, go ransom Windows. Then we have the detections. So you can see top value of signal rule name. So far we've noticed that we had 2 detections in all the emulations we ran today, which is not good. We should probably figure out our coverage. But you can see this provides me the percentages of everything. And then I can just grab this and add it to our Canvas workpad, and then have this being presented live to whoever needs it. So this is all live data, right? So I think that's all I have time for today. I'm just going to go back to my very last slide here. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and hopefully you enjoyed the whole B-Sides event and what's left to come. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us on our community Slack or Discuss forums. have a great day and stay safe. Thank you all very much.